Hello, and welcome to the Choralosophy Podcast. This is Chris Muntz, and this is episode 124, Teaching in a Famous Classroom with Miles Finn. So what happens when you post a video on the internet from inside of your classroom and it goes viral within millions and millions of views? Well, that's up to you. This happened to Miles Finn, and he decided to use his powers for good, creating a TikTok account with approaching 700,000 followers that shows life inside a high school choir room, as well as a treasure trove of great instructional ideas for those of us on the inside of the profession. But perhaps the most valuable thing is the fact that thousands of people outside of our choir bubble are being exposed to our world. This is advocacy in the 21st century in its purest form. Getting the word out about what it is that we do. That is a mission here at this show as well, and I was glad to find a fellow traveler. Tune in as Miles and I talk about his instructional philosophy, his warm-ups, teacher burnout, how the internet fame has changed the dynamics of his classroom, and much more. Don't forget that using Choralosophy discount codes at a variety of great vendors saves you money and gets you access to some of the best products in the choral market. SiteReadingFactory.com memberships annually, you can get 10% off every single time you renew and use Choralosophy at checkout. You can go to mymusicfolders.com and mychoirrobes.com and get a discount there every time you get new choir folders. Our All-State results came out, and I'm about to go order my All-Stater folders at mymusicfolders.com. I can customize them, get the names put on them, and everything. It makes a great gift. So I want to encourage you to head over to patreon.com/choralosophy and support the show voluntarily, even though it's free, to help me make sure that the quality continues to be on the rise and that I can do this forever. So I encourage you to head on over there and join that growing group. And not to mention the behind the scenes episodes that you get there. You also get access to teaching materials and rubrics and various other goodies that I offer only to Patreon subscribers, including the ability to see who is coming up on the show, the guests before they get there. People supporting at the producer tier or above on Patreon are Brannigan Lawrence, Brian Long, Chandler Smith, Venture Studios, John Warner, Jonah Clicksbull, Ulrika Igrain Munoz Alarcon, Angie Schilling, David Kowalczyk, James Mock, Jared Hendricks, Kyle Peterson, Max Jackson, Michael Herron, Nathan Hines, Ryan Main, and Steve and Kathy Kakachik. All right, everybody, I am here with the TikTok famous choir teacher named Miles Finn, and I'm excited to talk to him about that, but also his philosophy on education. And this should be an interesting conversation because one of the things that I enjoy doing on this show is helping the broader world population understand what a choir classroom is like. And it sounds like you're accomplishing that as well. So, Mr. Finn, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. I am super excited to be here. I've listened to this show for quite a while, so awesome to officially be a guest on the show.
Cool. Very cool. Let's start by just having you explain to us who you are. What is your choir origin story? Why did you become a choir teacher? What is it that grabbed you? And where do you teach? What's your program like? You know, just the basic biographical stuff.
For sure. So I currently teach at Indianola High School in Indianola, Iowa. So that's about 15 minutes south of Des Moines. Originally, I'm from Northeast Iowa, so I've been kind of an Iowa native for the entirety of my life. Did my undergrad at Wartburg College in Waverly, Iowa with Lee Nelson. Absolutely incredible choral experience there. The man's just a magician. And then just recently finished my master's degree at Michigan State. Did the whole summer master's program there. But I'm currently in my 8th year of teaching, 5th year at Indianola High School, and 3rd year, I taught 3 years at a small rural school named South Hamilton, just north of Ames, Iowa. So 8 years. It's been a blast. I love it, man. It's been so much fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What's the program like where you teach? What's your course load like? How many students do you have? That kind of thing.
For sure. So 250 students. We've got 5 curricular choirs, 2 extracurricular show choirs. And then the musical, which is where like the video that went viral, that's what I was doing, was announcing the musical that we were doing for the spring. So I direct 2.5 choirs. I say 2.5 because one of them I co-direct with my partner in crime. And then I co-direct both show choirs and then the musical, obviously. So there's never a dull moment in my job. And it definitely takes up some time, but it's a blast.
Yeah. That's awesome. It sounds like our programs are structured and sized almost identically. Like we're about the same deal. I have a co-teacher, about 250 kids on the roster, that kind of thing. And it is constant drama, but also constantly rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you can get like the talent pool is going to be so vast with a number that big.
Yeah.
There's going to be students that can't match pitch. There's going to be students that are all staters, obviously. So you have like everywhere in between that.
Yep.
So I think it bodes well for some fun music making.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so in the intro, I was talking about how with your kind of exploding TikTok account, which I just got on and looked at like right before we signed on, it's almost like 700,000 followers.
Dude, it's
right.
crazy.
And so I was talking about the idea of helping the general population understand what a choir class is like, because I'm assuming, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but of course, I'm assuming that the good percentage of those 700,000 people are probably not choir teachers / current choir singers.
100%. Yeah. And like, it's so fun to hear the people that are just like, oh, you're making me relive my choir experience from high school. And I'm like, absolutely. Like, that's kind of the idea, is to like give them a chance. Or another comment that I just absolutely love is like, you make me wish that I would have done choir in high school, and like, so hopefully I'm helping like bolster that image of what, choir directors do or what a choral program can look like or things like that.
Right. Yeah. And that's really awesome. That when I tried to make that connection in kind of thinking through a conversation with you, it's like, in podcasting on that side of the media world, a podcaster is doing really, really well if they have 4,000 or 5,000 members of their audience. Like that's like a top-notch podcast.
Right.
In globally, but on TikTok, it's a completely different medium. And you're not trying to get somebody to sit down and have an hour-long conversation with you on a TikTok. So it's a little bit different. But can you give some examples, or does anything kind of come to your mind of just interactions that you've had with people on there that are just weird or funny or interesting? Like just because you're reaching such a broad swath of humanity?
Like I think right away when the video of me posting or like pulling off all the different musicals and things like that, when that went viral, I had rappers reaching out to me that were just like, hey man, like this is so cool that you're doing this. And I'm like, so yes, we're both musicians, but like I think we're definitely like reaching a different audience on a regular basis. Like my audience is going to be 65-year-old grandmas that are coming to watch their child, and they're maybe like reaching out to the actual child, like that's kind of their audience, so like that started in kind of a weird way. And like those conversations were just different for me, and new, especially when, I'm teaching a rural Iowa population. That was wild for me to get a chance to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think other than that, like I said, it's the people that are just like, I miss being in choir, or, I wish that my choir teacher was like this, which makes me feel bad a little bit, because I'm just like, your teacher is probably a great person. I think maybe there's some things that they can do that would be a little bit better, and hopefully I can help with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we all have to understand that we all have, those human qualities. Like there's going to be people that are good at it. There's going to be people that are going to have off days. There's going to be people that are going to have great days. Thankfully, my videos have caught me on some pretty good days, and people have seemed to like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now tell the story, just for the listener who might not be on TikTok, what that original video or series of videos that kind of went viral for you. Explain what it was that you did that made it so creative and fun and funny for the video watching audience.
Yeah, for sure. So it started with 13 musicals. Like we put up 13 different musicals up on the board. I say we because my wife and I actually co-direct the musical together. And so I put up those 13 different musicals that were up on the board, and she goes, hey, don't put the musical up on the board that you're going to do. And I'm like, oh man, like that is crazy. Like that is such a good idea. It's going to freak them out, whatever. Okay. So we go through this whole process of like pulling off all the musicals, yada, yada, yada. And then we get to the last day. And this is where like the viral video went crazy. And I should preface this with, the only reason I was recording these videos was to be like, hey, if you missed me announcing the musical, you can watch these videos on my TikTok to my kids. Like, so they got a chance to like, be a part of the experience as well. But apparently people like that. So we got to the last day and I pulled off the two remaining musicals, which were, I think it was like Mary Poppins and Beauty and the Beast. So it was like ones that they were like still excited about, and crumple them up, and you just hear the whole room go silent. And I was like, oh, sweet. Okay, so what I did was I ended up like coming up with this whole. I'm a music theater guy, obviously, so it has to be extra. It has to be dramatic, and so what I did was I created like I think it was like 2-minute video of myself, like a video of myself having a conversation with live action Miles, like on the floor. And so I like kind of go back and forth, like, hey man, like, where's the last musical? Like, it wasn't up on the board. Do you have it in your backpack or something like that? And then I end up like running around the room and like causing a ruckus. And then finally I say, hey, there's something down here behind the screen. And I go, live me goes and pulls off this manila envelope that says confidential on it. And inside is this sheet that says, play Alexa, play musical announcement. And sure enough, Alexa goes off, and then it goes into this dramatic, like, probably 30-second sequence of like, your new musical is, and then finally da 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 da, and all the kids start screaming, and people just went crazy for it. But it was so stinking fun, man. And the kids, I think the kids' reaction was truthfully like what made that go viral, because they were just it was so authentic and real and like super excited, and yeah, it was really, really fun.
That's awesome. And so when at that point, when you had made that recording and that video, what is it safe to say that your TikTok experience was just kind of a hobby and was just like in other words, you didn't probably see that coming, correct?
Never. No, absolutely not.
And so talk us through that. So how does your life change all of a sudden when millions of people saw that video, and hundreds of thousands of people are following you and probably leaving comments, and your phone's starting to blow up? Like, what is that like?
It's hard to explain, because like I still got up the next day and went and like led warm-ups and went through our concert repertoire and like did sight reading, and like so my school day was like relatively normal. But like that night, like the night after I posted it, my wife and I went out for dinner, I think, and then we got home maybe like an hour later, and I like looked at my phone and I was like, this has 300,000 views on it, and it's been like a half hour. It's been 45 minutes, whatever. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? And then I had a friend call me from college that we sang in the Warper Choir together, and he called me and he's like, hey man, you just popped up on my For You page. What's going on? I'm like, what? Yeah. So like then it started reaching. And then I think when I realized that it was going to be the craziest was probably like 2 hours later, it hit 1 million views. And then like around the same time, I got a text from a colleague in Kentucky that was like, hey, your video just popped up on my For You page too. And I was like, this is like going a lot crazier than I ever expected it to. And then the next morning it was at like, 5 million views or something like that. And now it's at what, 63 something. Yeah. It just absolutely wild. But like, yeah, it's hard because like part of me was like, okay, so am I like an influencer now? Like, do I have to like start creating like Mr. Finn merch or something? Like people want to just like have hats with like my shiny head on it or something. I don't know. And so I was just, yeah, I didn't really know where to go. And truthfully, I still don't really know where to go. But I do know that I believe that those videos went crazy because of authenticity. And so and my wife and I have talked about this. Like, I think I'm just going to just keep being myself. And if there's a phone recording me, let it be there and let me just like continue to be myself. And hopefully if it goes crazy, it does. If not, whatever, like, so I posted a video of a warm up, like I think 3 days ago, and it only got like 20,000 views or something like that, which seems like it's still an astronomical number, but like,
right.
It seems very small compared to that like big number. And so I'm like, should I care about this? No, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go like be a father to my son. I'm going to still make dinner and like continue to like just be a choir teacher that I think is relatively successful and has fun in the classroom. And that's my priority. And so that's truthfully what matters. But like, there's still some like super fun interactions. Like I had somebody that's currently in the Broadway cast of Come From Away. reach out to me and like wanted to, and I posted a video of that too, but they wanted to like send us a video just like saying thank you to me, and then like giving a message to my kids, basically saying like understand that like you are working with an awesome choir teacher, which like obviously made me like really emotional to hear that from people on Broadway. But they were saying like continue to like pursue your dreams, continue to work hard. If this is something that you want to do, you can absolutely do it, which was like super, super cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, just the breadth that it has had has been absolutely amazing. Like the amount of people that have reached out, and then like now I'm getting comments in German and comments in like Spanish and comments in like different languages that I would not be able to read. And it just is like, so this is becoming a worldwide phenomenon, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So in one of the things that I've noticed that you did after that big viral video is, as you mentioned, you posted some videos of yourself leading warm-ups in the choir, which has been really cool because they're not the types of warm-ups that I do, but I really like them. And so they like just seeing how you sequence them and how you pace them and how you build them has been really cool, because then it's given me some ideas of things that I might want to try. And so in one sense, that, I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your TikTok account, but that seems like a really cool possibility of just the shared professional development that happens when you post an idea of a thing that works well in your classroom. Then other people like me can see it and try it. And some of them we might not try, but then some of them we might scroll past and think is really fun. So what I'm interested in having you kind of talk through with us is when you turn that camera around on yourself and you're teaching the choir a warm up by rote, and maybe it's a pop song or some type of song that you're building a harmonic structure. Are those things that you plan ahead of time? Or are they things that you just kind of make up on the spot? Or how does that work for you?
Nothing. I would say nothing is like totally on the spot. There are a couple times like if I do like a harmonic progression warm up where I like have, okay, everyone hold this chord, now basses move here, blah blah blah, and then like everyone is moving voice, not like moving stepwise, like finding different chords, things like that. Like that'll be on the spot, and I think that most of us would be able to handle that and pick something up like that, like just by listening and trying to find like exactly kind of what chords you want to hear, or like have them lock a major second, like make sure that we can really tune that in, or like can we actually tune a major seventh, what does that sound like, stuff like that. And even that though probably has some preparation beforehand, like we're doing Runestad's Nyan Nyan right now.
Yep.
And so like I'm working a lot on like, okay, we have to tune this chord and this chord in our music. So let's try to do something like, let's work our way to that through a warm up and then directly apply it to the music. But otherwise it's like, it's stuff that I have done for a long period of time. Like some of them I've stolen directly from Lee Nelson, like, or I stole directly from like stuff that the Wartburg Choir had done even before Lee Nelson had done it. Or the Hey Jude was something that I saw on Facebook like 5 years ago and I just fell in love with. And so I was just like, I could probably like transcribe this relatively quickly. And so I, here's the bass part, here's the tenor part, here's the alto part, here's the soprano part. And then the altos got the melody, which people really, really liked the fact that the altos had a melody in the song. But yeah, so pretty much any of those warm-ups, or like I've got a list of jingles that I want to have the choir sing as like part of their warm-up progression. And any of those things though I think will take, it's not a lot of prep, it's maybe 5-10 minutes before rehearsal if I really need to work on it. Otherwise it's like I could probably just kind of throw it in as we start rehearsal. But
now, how do those types of warm-ups, those like 4-part or multiple part kind of song, I would just call them song warm-ups as opposed to like a random vocalese, how do they fit into your class day? Do you do them every day? Are they part of your routine, or are these things that kids they do them once a week? Do you recycle them once they know them really well? Do they continue to sing them, or are you always teaching them new things? How does that work for you?
So I like to recycle, and if they really like it, I will recycle it more often and reuse it more often. But truthfully, it's like, it's either whenever I have been bitten by the bug of wanting to do it, or Fridays. like a fun warm up Friday sort of thing is when
I
I would
see.
like to do some of those things, so it's
Okay.
like it's not every day. Now if it's something that like is directly correlated to what I'm working on in the day for the rep, then maybe, I'll throw that in, even if it's a Tuesday or whatever,
Hmm.
like if I'm working on really going for that bright nyan nyan tone, maybe I can do the Hey Jude warm up and then like really work on. And I'm doing this because this is what I used to show them like the tone differences, show them what a really bright tone was. Did you see that video by chance?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yes, I did. I did see that one.
So we did Hey Jude, and I said, okay, now we're gonna change our tone. And so like down by my elbow was really, really dark tone, and then up by my fingertips was really, really bright tone. And so like working on Yun Yun, obviously there's a lot of that that's gonna kind of remain up in this area. So like directly incorporating that warm up into what we're doing with our rep, can be really, really helpful. And the kids,
Uh-huh.
can relate those things really, really quickly, which is fun.
Now, do you do all of those songs by rote, or do you print them out and give them to the kids at first?
Depends on how difficult it is to remember.
Ah,
Like the
okay.
tonight, I just posted a video that was like somebody had done like a multi-track of Tonight You Belong to Me.
Uh-huh.
I had to change some of the lyrics because it felt a little possessive, but we did I did a printout of that. I just wrote that up and then printed it out, and then we learned that on that day. But I did still teach it like basses you start, then tenors, then altos, then sopranos. But they did have something in front of them on that. But like Hey Jude taught them all of that by rote. What was the other one? Someday got a lot of views. That got like 7 million views or something like that. But I taught them all of that by rote too,
Hmm.
which was cool. And some of those you have to. Some of those like it makes more sense to just kind of feel a little bit more rather than like reading and then feeling. Sometimes the feeling needs to come first.
Yeah, that's the part that I was most excited about with just watching how you go through that process and wanting to try more of that with my kids, because the my kids are really good readers, and so sometimes that makes me lazy
Sure.
in that way, where I can, I can just hand them the sheet music and we can just sing the right notes. But it's at a certain point, like I'm seeing that there's value in let's just sing.
Yeah. Oh,
Let's just
absolutely.
sing.
Yeah.
And not how, and especially in a warm-up type setting where we can start to feel those types of chord building and line building and kind of, for lack of a better term, I guess, decerebralize it and
Absolutely. Yeah.
just make it fun. And so I need to want more of that anyway. But I know in my world, we've lost about 20% of our instructional minutes in the last 2 years. They keep cutting our class time down in favor of other things, and so I keep feeling like I'm just cramming to get everything in. But I'm going to try some of yours. I think those are really cool, and I like them a lot. Speaking of that, how many minutes do you have?
We do. So the class that I have done probably the most recording with is the Indianola Singers. That's my top group.
Okay.
And we are over the lunch period. So technically it's like an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
But I break them up into sectional times. And so like one tenors and basses will go to lunch while the altos and sopranos are with me for a half hour. It ends up turning into 25 minutes with them. And then I get another 25 minutes with tenors and basses while the others are at lunch. And then we all come together for the final.
That is so awesome. And
it's
I'm
perfect.
so jealous.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
But then for the other 4 classes, it's 43 minutes.
See, we have 43 for everybody.
Yeah.
40, yeah. That's interesting. It's we had 2 years ago, we had 51 minutes.
Yeah.
Now we have 43 plus a whole bunch of other like mandatory SEL type things that we have to work into the class period. And so when you kind of boil it all down, it's really more like we have 38 minutes.
Yeah.
39 minutes maybe to actually instruct. And it's becoming very frustrating.
Makes it very efficient.
Yeah, no, you have to have it all lined out to the minute. Exactly. Just to make sure everything happens. But okay, so now I'm interested in kind of taking it into how your kids feel about, or how do they communicate to you that they feel about this new famous TikTok teacher that they have? Like, how has that affected your classroom to have this blow up? If your school or church are in the market for staging products like risers, shelves, podiums, movable platforms, all of the things that you need to set your choir up for success, I would like to strongly urge you to check out StageRight. StageRight's products are sturdy, they're durable, they're easy to use. I have personal experience with the acoustical shelves and some of the platforms that they have at StageRight, and I can tell you, compared to some of the more expensive competitors, they are a really great option to fit inside of a tight school budget, but also to give you the durability and usability that you need. So check out StageRight at stageright.com.
They like the first couple of days they were like hyped about it and like super like in and like love it. And then, it kind of wore off a little bit. And then like when I was whenever I would say, hey, I'm gonna record this and like I'll post it on TikTok, they always get kind of like a little excitement with it. But I'm still like a normal quirky dude with them, and they know that I'm just their weird choir teacher that's just gonna make random noises and get them to sing funny, goofy songs or make them sing, Bach chorales or whatever, So like I still am that choir nerd to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they appreciate that. Yeah, I'm still a normal person. I'm not gonna make my whole life being a TikToker.
Right. Yeah, I ask because like that's something for me also. I'm just curious your experience, because one of the things I get requests of a lot is I talk on the show about things I do in the classroom, but I don't show a lot.
Yeah.
Partly because I feel awkward turning the camera on.
I get that.
So like I know that I should, because I do have people who would really benefit from it. And my kids don't mind, but they do kind of make fun of me. Like if I get a camera out, they'll start making fun of me for recording things for my internet fans or whatever. Do they give you a hard time about it, or is it just like no big deal when you turn on the camera?
I think like we have that relationship where they will give me a hard time about it, but then I'll just be like, okay, shut up, let me do this. Like, and just like we'll just like joke back and forth, So like they're cool with it, and they have fun with it too, which I think is important. And they see also that like they're kind of like living vicariously through my success with it too, And so like a view of my stuff is also a view of their stuff,
Yeah.
a view of me being a choir teacher is also a view of their choir teacher, And so like they get to kind of live through that too, which is it adds like a fun level of excitement.
Right. Now, how does your school, like, have you ever had any kind of conversations with your administrators and your school district about this? Do they have policies that kind of govern how you post things from your class? Or most school districts do. How does that work for you?
Yeah. So like the first thing that I had a TikToker called That Midwestern Mom, who like her big thing is like I think she's a classically trained like music teacher or something. But she has this beautiful soprano voice, but then her other like persona is that she plays this mom that will like make casseroles and things, and like she always talks with a Minnesotan accent, and like super super funny. But she commented, or I think she actually sent me a message when they first started going crazy, and said something like, hey, just like make sure that you've got in writing that all of your parents have like done media releases, basically saying like that the parents are okay, with their kids' likeness being put on TikTok, even if it's like not directly like on their face, but it's like their voice, or if it does like pan around to them, like just making sure that you've got your bases covered with that. And so that was like the main conversation of just making sure that like we don't have any issue that way.
Right.
And so like thankfully they had already signed a media release through the school, which is really really helpful. I did create another one that just kind of like narrowed in even further, at the advice of legal counsel, actually saying, hey, you might just want to like think about this just to make sure that like you have all of your bases covered.
Yep.
And then my district was even like, you really don't, like you're good, you're covered. So they've been really supportive of it. And obviously like hoping that it's going to like bolster our ticket sales with the Addams Family when that does come out. I think they they have a sense of excitement with it too, which is really nice. And it's nice to like have that love and support from them, which is cool too.
Yeah. Now, have you? So I'm just gonna I'm gonna say what my experience has been, and I just want to have you reflect and see if you see any common ground, because I feel I'm a little bit older than you, so I've been teaching for 20 years, and so the idea of social media being in the hands of students was not really a thing when I started teaching. In fact, my first year of teaching was like MySpace was just starting.
Oh my God.
And so like there were students that had MySpace, but it was usually a place where just a group of friends might have a conversation about like a comic book they liked or whatever. And that's pretty much the only reason kids were like using it at all. And so I've kind of grown up, so to speak, with this evolving technology. And one of the things that I've discovered is that for me, I feel like the fact that I live my life, at least partially, in public view through social media, has been overall a benefit to me with my students, because they see, partly it's the language that they now speak. Like it's normal for them in their generation,
right,
to have somebody have some kind of version of themselves that they see through social media. But also, they see that I'm a real person with kids and a family and hobbies that outside of school and interests outside of school and jobs outside of school. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like my contrast from the beginning of my career is that it's humanized me to my students in ways that are really beneficial. And I wonder if you've ever experienced that, or just if you have thoughts about that.
100%. And I think like they need to see that we're people first.
Mm-hmm.
Like they need to understand that like I'm going to go home and I'm going to, hang out with my wife and son, and we're going to watch movies, or like they know that I play video games too, like I'm a normal person, and I think that sort of connection, and I like the way that you said something about like we're speaking that language now, because like you do have to understand that like we grew up in a very different time than what they're growing up. The development of technology, the way that like the mental health crisis is happening right now. You could talk about like, anything from the use of social media all the way to like politics. And unfortunately, those things are connected a little bit too much. Whatever, we won't get into that. But the idea that like they are living in such a different, I mean, it's truthfully a different world than when we were growing up. To be able to somehow get onto that level, and to be able to have similar experiences, I think is important when it comes to especially making choral music, because that's all that we're doing is making connections. It's all that we're doing is working together for that common goal. And so if we see the world through a different lens, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult for us to work together to make this common goal something actually worth listening to. And so it all comes down to those connections. And like you said, speaking the same language, I think that's so important.
Well, and you're also, just to use your example of your TikTok channel, in a lot of ways, you're providing a role model or an example to them of a healthy and fun way and non-toxic way to use social media.
Amen.
And they need to see that too, because it is our new language, and you could learn how to be a faceless bot on the internet who just trolls a bunch of people and tells them that they're horrible people or whatever and bullies them. Or you could make really fun choir videos, and you could make, have a social media presence that's dedicated to bringing joy into the world and music into the world, and, those types of things. And kids need to see that role model as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of my thought too. And especially like kind of going back to what we were first talking about, of just being like, we're shedding more light. You and I both are shedding more light on what it is to be a choir teacher, and hopefully inspiring another generation of teachers, hopefully inspiring another generation of music teachers specifically, in at a time where I feel that we're struggling to keep people in the profession. Like, what a gift to be able to share that.
Yeah. Now, what are your Just since you brought it up, I'm curious now what your opinion is about that problem of struggling to keep people in the profession. Where do you see that coming from?
Ugh, where do you start, man? I mean, do you start talking about money first? Because
You could.
you know that it's not there, you know?
Yeah.
And then do you start talking about all the hoops that you have to jump through? Do you talk about the student loan crisis? Do you talk about how difficult it is to, you know, help somebody with mental health issues? I mean, there's so many different places that you can go with it, and it does suck. On a
Right.
regular basis, it sucks. But you also have to understand that and obviously, like I'm saying, you have to understand, like this, like
Yeah.
I'm preaching to the choir with you, and literally preaching to the choir. But um the rewards are huge. The seeing somebody turn into a person is amazing. Seeing somebody grow up and learn how to interact in their environment, or find a passion, or become good at something. I mean, it's like being a parent without actually having to parent, really. Like you don't have to go through the diaper changing process, but you do still get to like see that person grow up, which is incredible and so rewarding.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I've done a few episodes on this burnout problem. And I think part of it is all the things that you said, but I also think that there are some problems that are, and because I see it in a generation of teachers that, is in that younger box. And because usually if you get to my stage in a career, you're in it. Like you're going to stick with it. Most teachers who get to 20 years also get to 30.
Right.
It's the teachers who haven't quite gotten to their tenure 5 years yet, or haven't gotten to the part of their teacher pay scale in their district where it really starts to bump up, which is usually after year 5.
Right.
In most schools, because they see that buy-in, and so I have like slightly, I guess, controversial opinions about this, because I'm not bothered by how much I get paid in a lot of ways. Like I think of it like I work 8 months out of the year. And I love, one of the things that attracted me to the teaching profession is that I get that time off and I don't actually get paid for it. So in a lot of ways, like my contract is for 182 days or whatever it is.
Right.
And if you compare that to a typical corporate job that's working 260 days a year or whatever, then there's a disparity in the pay. But so of course, like, would I like it if we got paid more? Of course.
Right.
But I didn't come into it for that.
Right.
And I knew, and so there's a certain expectations that are that I think many of us are putting on ourselves to make a certain amount of money or whatever. Now that being said, your generation, even 10 or 15 years behind me, had a completely different bill when it came to going to college.
It's insane.
I had no student loans. My entire, I went to college in the late 1990s. I went in state. And my bill was like $2,000 a semester.
Wow.
Or something like that.
Wow.
And so it's a different ball game. And so it would make sense that I'm not as stressed about how much I get paid.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
I don't have a loan payment.
Yeah. That's
so,
and I will till I'm 40.
Till you're 40. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that is bonkers.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then when grad school, I was on scholarship and on, stipend for grad assistant stuff. And so I didn't pay for that either. And, so there's a lot of it has to do with various life circumstances,
for sure,
that we have. And, and so that is the tricky part. But, I think that the rewards, we also have to have, on the flip side of that, we also have to have an idea that the reward is more than just money. And I know that gets made fun of a lot, like, oh, you just got to do it for the kids, but you do. Like it has to be about the kids.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And if that is your mindset, then there's never anything wrong with that. And you're always in the right if that's what you're doing, and your teaching is always going to be better if that's the priority. And I think that is what all of this can boil down to very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It seems like you're just from the window that we get into your classroom from your TikTok. It seems like you guys have a pretty pretty healthy environment in your classroom. Is that
Yeah.
how you would describe
100%.
it?
Yeah. And I think healthy comes from like having a lot of priority on, obviously, like we're going to be making music, we're going to be working on musicianship skills, we're going to work on being better sight readers, all of that, but healthy, I think, is an important word, because we talk specifically in my classroom about mental health quite a bit. And we
Mm-hmm.
talk about like, hey, there are going to be days that you don't want to do this, and if you need to take a break, you just talk to me and we'll do that. And I have students. I am thankful that my students understand what I mean by that. In basically, like, if you're able to do it, like, let's get some work done. But if you're to the point where you need to take a break, and that's
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean to say with that is, like, I don't have kids that are just going to like sit out because, oh, I'm tired, like I don't really feel very good. Like,
Right.
they're not going to use that as an excuse. But like, I had a student just this week that was like, I'm on the verge of a panic attack. Is it okay if I just sit in your office for a little bit during class? And I was like,
Yeah.
100%, you got it. Go sit.
Yep.
And I think that like that sort of relationship is where we talk about the classroom being like a healthy place for them to be,
Right.
and a good thing for them that I don't know that they necessarily get a chance to in other classes. I will also say that I think that being a music teacher, we get to be the people that bring kids to school, because I think without our
Oh, yeah.
classes, there would be so many kids that would just be like, I'm good. Like, I don't want to go to bio today. I don't want to like have to go sit through a math class, where the teacher's been using the same curriculum for years and years and years. I get to go into choir today, and I get to actually make new music that my teacher is inspired to do. And it's going to be fun. And it makes me want to get up and go to class in the day. It makes me want to get up and go to school during the day.
Yeah.
And so I think like, I'm fortunate that this is the path that I decided to take, because choral music brings people like from all walks of life to work towards a common goal, which is so cool.
Yeah. No, it is. It's the best job. It is absolutely the best job. And, just last night I had a former student that graduated 9 years ago, came over for dinner and just to hang out. And she was talking to my wife and I about just a pretty challenging childhood that she was going through when she was in choir at our school, and just talking about how important it is that kids have a place where just somebody gives a shit.
Amen.
Like that, like they have to. Some kids really don't have that.
Right.
Like they
exactly.
don't, and the only place they get it is when they come to school. And the special part about choir, it's not that. I mean, I think there are special properties of choir that make that type of connection easier because of how vulnerable we have to be to use our voice in front of other people. So there is that part of it. But then there's the other part of it where, most teachers in a high school don't get to see the same kids for 4 years.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's huge too.
Yeah. And so she was talking about how that choir quickly became that place where she just knew that there were adults somewhere that gave a crap if she showed up that day or was doing okay, because sometimes kids don't have that. And I think it just makes the job, despite all the structural problems, the pay, which I actually feel like my most annoying part about the job is not the pay, it's the hoops you were talking about.
Seriously, good God.
That's the hardest part. It's just all the non-teaching related things. But that's what makes it worth it, is because at least for me, is that I feel like I'm really making a difference in somebody's life. Yeah. And that seems like, sounds like you share that kind of perspective.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Now, you might find this interesting, why do I think from watching your TikTok videos that your class seems so healthy? There's a cue that I look at and I notice, and you maybe don't even notice this. Okay. You do almost all of your stuff, and maybe it's just because you've got the camera on you and you have to stay in the camera shot, but you're able to do almost all of your instruction while sitting pretty comfortably and relaxed on the little stool that you use.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because if I'm watching a student teacher, if I'm watching watching a young teacher and giving them feedback, if you have to constantly run to the kids to get them to do stuff, that's a sign that they are not doing it healthily and interactively and with their own internal motivation, a lot of times choir teachers feel like they have to like get up in the kid's face and like make them do it. And I noticed that you're able to just kind of sit back and say, we're going to do this. And then they do it. And I don't know how far away they are from you in those shots, but it just seems like they're coming to you versus you having to come to them.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think you and I have like kind of a different opinion on that too.
Okay, good.
Because like I go back to, in my undergraduate experience, we had Renee Clausen come and clinic the Wartburg Choir while he was doing like an honor choir or something at Wartburg. And I remember like we were doing his In Pace, and it was just like, it was my all-time favorite choral piece at the time. And I remember him coming and just being seriously like a foot away from me. And for some reason I felt more like connected in that way in that moment. And now, so I'm going to back up a little bit, and I will say that you should obviously do most of it from that place, but sometimes you can make a really like quick connection, not necessarily like, hey, like do this, like it doesn't need to be necessarily like demanding in that moment, but I think like you can make a very quick connection with the music, and they are just like seeing every bit of your being just like part of this music, and you get to see it in a really like close way. So it's not necessarily like that I have to just like actually take the spoon and spoon feed it to him, but it's that I do get pretty close to him at some points. And like, I actually just created an aisle in the middle of our choir room so that I could like go up and like work with the tenors and basses.
Oh, we don't disagree.
Yeah.
We don't disagree.
Okay. Good.
No. Because I didn't mean to make it sound like you shouldn't ever leave the stool.
Sure. Okay.
What I meant was, though, it's a good sign that the teacher doesn't have to be in their face to get them to do stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then
that's what I mean. So you should be able to freely roam your room, of course, and do all those things. But I think that it is sometimes a bad sign when I'm watching teachers where once the teacher is not directly holding the kid accountable in that moment, it's the idea of like, when I look over to the basses, the sopranos are now checked out.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And can the teacher then step back and just give some very simple instructions and have a self-managing process?
Amen. Yeah.
Happen? That's what I'm going for.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get that.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of another like I can give you an example of this in practice. So I actually teach this concept to kids when they come into my classroom at the beginning of 9th grade. Because we know, and this is no shade against middle school or elementary school choir teachers, but we know that part of what they deal with is just getting kids to not grab each other's butts.
Right,
like,
exactly.
That's like, that's a big part of their job. And so there's a lot of like coaxing and pleading and cajoling kids to sing that happens at elementary school choir, and the choir teacher's got to have usually this big personality and big loud, like 1, 2, ready and go.
Exactly.
And there's got to be this whole thing, or else they don't oftentimes sing. And so kids, I've found that kids kind of have to be trained out of that. So what'll happen is I'll come in first couple days of choir, and we also rehearse from beginning of day one, without keyboard playing notes. That's like a big thing for me. And so I'll play the starting pitch, I'll play the tonic, whatever it is, and we'll start singing. And I'll just sit on a stool and I'll say 1, 2, ready and sing. And I'll show it with my hand really, really nonchalant. And oftentimes they won't sing. And then I'll say, why didn't you sing? Let's try it again. And then I'll take away all the cue and I'll just go and show a downbeat. And then they still don't sing. And I'm like, why aren't you singing? Well, let's try it again. And so like what I'm doing is I'm showing them, I'm not going to beg you to sing. I'm going to give you the information that you need. It's the pitch again. I'm not going to beg you. I'm not going to yell at you, but you're going to sing when I say go.
Right. Exactly.
Right? And because what they're used to oftentimes is they're used to being like that. It's kind of like I was saying before, it's the teacher comes to me.
Yes.
And pulls that out of me, and we're going to kind of work on the idea that no, I'm a big kid now. I can just do it when it's time, and I just turn on my own voice,
right? And that saves you too. Like that like having the kids do a lot more of the work as opposed to you just like like tirelessly, like the entire rehearsal, just trucking through and like hoping that they learn all of their music, you know, like
Right.
giving them that sort of ownership is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And something
Absolutely.
like definitely something that I want to get better at too, you know, like, and I think that's, that I think is kind of one of my ultimate goals, is to make that musician that is self-sufficient, you
Yes.
know, and
That's
can
what it's
leave my
about.
rehearsal. Yeah. And so hopefully through practices like that, you know, we're making musicians that are able to go out and survive in a musical world.
Yeah. Because I think the essential, I guess, core of what I'm teaching them in that type of exercise is that you don't really need me.
Right.
Like, and that is the goal, that you would become a musician who can just learn it on your own, in the same way that if we were teaching reading of English or of a language, we wouldn't want to have to be there at home for the kid too when they're picking up a book.
Pointing every word. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Good God.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to. We would think of ourselves as a failure as a reading teacher if we had to follow the kid home to help them read when they're at home. You know, we wanted to send them out of our classroom with the ability to, and the skill set to pick up a piece of music and put the pieces together, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time. Let's kind of wrap up with this, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Where, if you just kind of maybe on the way out can talk about where we can find you, because of course we've talked about the TikTok, but we didn't give any details or examples. And then any exciting things that you have coming up, or things that you might plan to be doing with your channel in the future. I know we talked about that a little bit, but do you have any kind of special projects in the works or anything like that?
Sure. So places that people can find me, first, TikTok is kind of where most of my stuff is being, you know, posted right now. My TikTok handle is at It's Mr. Finn, and Finn is spelled Finn. Same thing for Instagram. I'm going to try to like bolster that a little bit. My Instagram following is not nearly as hefty as my TikTok following, but obviously, you know, they're not related, so we're working on it. But that handle is at It's Mr. Miles Finn, and Miles is spelled Myles. As for projects coming up, I think, you know, I love posting the warm-ups and stuff. I am also getting into show choir season pretty heavily. And I have not seen much of a presence of the show choir world in social media, like at all. And so that's something that I kind of want to bolster and just show people kind of how chaotic but fun show choir is, and that whole, you know, side of the choral world can be.
Mm-hmm.
So digging into that a little bit, and then as we turn into 2023, a lot of stuff with the Addams Family. That's when I start doing a lot of work with that. My wife is my choreographer, and so we'll have videos, you know, of her doing some work with them, and then, you know, just kind of rolling up until we get into the performance season of that, and then kind of, you know, starting the year over again and just kind of rocking and rolling with that, but showing, you know, how I'm a normal person in the classroom. Hopefully get a couple collaborations with some people. I've got a couple exciting projects that I can't talk about yet, coming down the pike. Yeah. Specifically with our musical world, which I'm excited about. But so yeah, lots of fun stuff coming in the works, but it's gonna be Mr. Finn being Mr. Finn, man. And that's awesome. Gonna be the way that I keep it, you know, the whole time.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I'm going to put, if it's okay, I'm going to find one of the warm-up videos and link it to the show notes here. On this episode when it comes out, because I think for a lot of people, if they have not found your channel already, they'll find some really useful things to actually just tangibly go and try.
Amen.
In the classroom, which is a really exciting thing. Like I said, I'm going to try one next week, one of your songs, and so just try to build a little bit more of that into my classroom as well. So everybody, go check that out. Find Miles and give him a follow.
Amen. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Miles. This has been fun. I appreciate what you're doing, and you're making an impact, bringing choir to the masses, which we love.
Thanks, man. It's an honor to be on the show. I love it.
Awesome. All right, I'll be in touch. Thanks as always for sticking around to the end of an episode. I had fun having that conversation because it really is a brave new world out there in social media and trying to create what it is that are the new norms and the new social expectations for what it means to be a teacher with our use of social media and the ways that that can actually impact our students' view of us, I think is an under-discussed topic, and I think it's an important one. So I hope you got something out of that. Don't forget, on the way out, like, share, subscribe anywhere that you get a chance to. You also have the opportunity to leave ratings on Facebook, on the Apple Podcast app. And then, of course, you can use that promo code Choralosophy at checkout at Sight Reading Factory, mymusicfolders.com, graphitepublishing.com, ryanmain.com. And last but not least, head over to patreon.com/Choralosophy and sign up there and join the supporter tribe. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.